Welcome back guys. LSFG is a universal frame generator built using machine learning that works on any GPU, whether it's from Intel, Nvidia or AMD, does not matter. LSFG just received a new update in the form of version 2.2. This is its update log. Version 2.2 updates the UI detection part by reducing the level of over detection, which eliminates some artifacts caused by UI detection and has a positive effect on the overall smoothness of the image. Cursor rendering at the target frame rate return to the previous behavior when rendering over refresh rate is allowed. Prior to this update, LSFG's maximum FPS was capped to the display's maximum refresh rate. This is not the case now. We have the option to disable VSync and allow tearing. This will allow the game's FPS to go over the display's maximum refresh rate. A new setting has been added, max frame latency. This option acts as a balance between latency and performance. There is no best value as all systems are different. Most likely the optimum value will be 1 for Nvidia GPUs and 3 for AMD. It should be at least 2, 3 for AMD if you want lossless scaling to be able to render over refresh rate. Rog Ally has an AMD based GPU, Radeon 780M. I got good results with max frame latency value set to 2. Merge the VSync and allow tearing options into one menu where default means that both of them are disabled. With the default setting, DWM sync is used. You shouldn't be observing any screen tearing. Improved FreeSync support works only on AMD GPUs. LS display supports FreeSync. Lithuanian and Vietnamese localization added. Previous version is available in Steam betas. I'll be running multiple games with LSFG on my Rog Ally. I have the Z1 Extreme variant of this device. First, I'll run Lossless Scaling app. It works as an overlay. Just need to keep the app running in the background while we are playing games. From the drop-down bar under frame generation, select LSFG 2.2 mode X2. It will try to double the FPS. X3 frame generation mode is more demanding on the GPU. It tries to triple the FPS. However, it produces more graphical artifacts at a lower base FPS value compared to X2 mode. X3 mode is recommended to be used with displays having 180 or higher Hz refresh rates. Clip cursor setting enabled. Not using LSFG's performance mode. It's basically a faster version of LSFG which is better suited for less powerful GPUs but has slightly worse quality. We'll see. If the base FPS drops below 40, then I would recommend enabling the performance mode. Not using any of lossless scaling's upscaling algorithms. Sync mode, there's the new setting. It is set to default. This is basically the safest option, but if you want the least possible latency, set the sync mode to off, allow tearing. This will allow the game's FPS to go over the display's maximum refresh rate. However, this can cause some frame pacing issues. Screen tearing will be present in some games. Not recommended to use VSync. Maximum frame latency, I'll just set the value to 3. First, I'll be running Hitman. We'll be targeting a base FPS of around 75. Then I'll enable LSFG to double this value. We'll be going over display's maximum refresh rate. LS display supports up to 120 Hz refresh rate. HDR support disabled. LS display does not support it. Raw FPS setting enabled. Capture API, DXGI. Yeah, we are done here. Settings. Start as administrator setting enabled. Hotkey for enabling LSFG control Alt and S. I own the Epic Games version of Hitman World of Assassination. You can exit Steam. It's not required to be running in the background while using lossless scaling. Connected my GuliKit KK3 Max gamepad to Ally via Bluetooth mode. I have set the UMA buffer size to 5 GB. My Ally is running on official GPU driver. BIOS version 339 using a 25 watts manual profile, all 3 power values set at 25 watts. 720p resolution, CPU boost disabled. Launch the game. Adrenaline settings, FreeSync enabled. VSync set to off unless application specifies. Anti-lag setting enabled. That's it. Using a custom afterburner overlay to show you the performance metrics. Enable the frame pacing graph. Stutters will be highlighted as spikes on the graph. In-game settings. Display mode set to full screen. It's basically borderless display mode. 720p resolution. In-game VSync disabled. FSR2 upscaler enabled using its quality preset. Medium settings. There's Agent 47. Here FPS is close to 85. Wow, this is insane. I haven't even enabled LSFG yet. some micro stuttering is present. It would be better to cap the FPS at 60 for a more stable experience. Just enable LSFG now. FPS with frame generation enabled should be higher than 120. Let's see. Pressed its hotkey. Okay, base FPS dropped down to around 60. LSFG comes with a performance hit. This is why I did not use X3 frame generation mode. It's more demanding than X2 frame generation mode. Yeah, FPS with frame gen enabled around 140. So the new mode is working. Can observe the added amount of smoothness. Camera is moving so quickly. Latency is not a problem. Yeah, it's slightly higher with LSFG enabled. Can observe this, but should not be a problem for a game like this. Okay, when I move the camera in complete circles, Agent 47's head flickers, as you can see. But when I move the camera at a normal speed, artifact does not appear. Now I'll just use the traditional mode. Just change the max frame latency value from 3 to 2. Don't want the game's FPS to go higher than the display's maximum refresh rate. In the case of Ally, it's 120. Rest of the settings are left as this. Cap the game's FPS using RTSS. FPS with frame generation enabled should be close to 120. Back to the game. I haven't enabled LSFG yet. This is the real 60 FPS. Check out the input response. Agent 47's character model is not flickering now, as we have disabled LSFG. Now I'm going to enable it. Enabled. FPS with frame generation on 120. It won't go higher than it. Okay, minor graphical artifact. Agent 47 head is flickering. But I'll be honest guys, game appears to be running very smoothly. Yeah, frame pacing issue is gone now. Let me just sprint around a crowded area. Yeah, this particular area is very demanding, and that's why I used it for testing the game. Still the frame pacing graph is a flat line mostly. You can definitely play the game. Input delay is not a problem. Again, if you want the least possible latency, just set the sync mode to allow tearing. Now I'll be testing the next game. Amazing results in Hitman. Now I'll be running GTA 5. Just set the max frame latency value to 2. Don't want the FPS to go higher than the display's max refresh rate. Sync mode set to default. I've set the display resolution to 900p. Adrenaline settings for the game. FreeSync enable. VSync set to off unless application specifies. Anti-lag setting enable. RSI enable. Resolution upscale from 900p to full HD. Graphics setting. Display mode set to windowed borderless 900p resolution. FXA enable. MSA and VSync disabled. Population density and population variety maxed out. Distance scaling maxed out as well. Most of the settings are set to high. Reflection MSA disabled. Motion blur disabled. Anisotropic filtering set to 16 times. That's it. There's Franklin. Here FPS is close to 70 to 80. And this is the game running without any frame generation technique. Input response. So 100 FPS is not possible with these settings on Ally. This is where LSFG will come into play. I'll just enable it. Hotkey did not work, so I'll just enable it manually. This can happen sometimes. It's working. Okay, base FPS dropped down to around 55. It's causing some frame pacing issues. FPS with frame generation enabled is close to 120. So I'll just use the performance mode of LSFG Also cap the game's FPS to 60. It's a bit jittery. Open LSFG, enable its performance mode. Open RTSS, cap the FPS to 60. Let's check the performance now. Back to the game. Yeah, the frame pacing graph is absolutely flat now. So smooth. This is amazing. I'll be driving my car. Driving around the city is demanding on the hardware.
You always was old choosy, motherfucker. Only child.
Franklin's character model is not flickering. Minor flickering may be present, very difficult to observe it. (120 FPS). Need to keep up with Llama. This is amazing. Game running at 900p resolution. High settings. Stable 120 FPS. I have installed the game on an SD card. No performance issues at all. Oh, crashed. It's very impressive performance in GTA 5. Barely any graphical artifacts produced by LSFG. Now I'll be testing the next game, another game from Rockstar, Red Dead Redemption Part 2. We'll use the same settings for RDR2, performance mode enabled, max frame latency value set to 2, sync mode default. I own the Rockstar launcher version of the game, it's not the Steam version. Display resolution set to 720p. Adrenaline settings for the game, FreeSync enabled. VSync set to off unless application specifies. Anti-lag setting enabled. That's it. In-game settings. Display mode set to windowed borderless 720p resolution. In-game VSync disabled. Texture quality set to high. Rest of the settings are set to medium. FSR2 set to quality. That's it. Game is running in DirectX 12 mode. Base FPS is capped at 60. Yeah, there's Arthur. I'm at the campsite. This is the game running without LSFG. I'm getting a stable 60 FPS here. GPU load 80%. I'll enable LSFG now. It's working. Can observe the added amount of smoothness. But I am also seeing some minor graphical artifacts around Arthur's character model. Garbled textures. Difficult to observe them when I move the camera at a normal speed like this. But they are observable when I move the camera in complete circles. Not observing any frame pacing issue. So good performance with LSFG in Red Dead Redemption 2. I'll quickly start a mission. Uncle is nearby. Here he is, sleeping. I am operating the carriage.
Yep.
Just checking out the environment. Base FPS here is around 55. FPS is frame generation enabled. Close to 110. It's still a smooth experience. Yeah, the open areas are more demanding. Again, LSFG is usable. Something happened to that carriage. It's going off track. Horses got separated. I'll be testing the next game. I'll be running the Epic Games version of Wuthering Waves. It's version 1.1. This game had performance issues at launch. It has received multiple updates since then. Okay, current version 1.1. Start. LSFG settings for Wuthering Waves. Maximum latency value set to 2. Sync mode default. Disable the performance mode. This game's FPS is capped at 60. Still, I have set the frame rate limit to 60 via RTSS to avoid any frame pacing issues. I am from India. We'll be using the game's SEA servers. Internal settings. FreeSync enable. VSync set to off unless application specifies. Radian anti-lag setting enable. RSI enable. Resolution upscale from 720p to Full HD. In-game settings using the medium preset. Screen mode set to windowed. 720p resolution. Frame rate set to 60. And just scroll down. FSI enabled. Capsule AO. Volumetric fog disabled. Motion blur disabled as well. VSync off. That's it. My current location, nearby Koishi village. There is rover. Big open area here. I'll explore the area on foot. Enemy. Observing some micro stuttering. GPU load is close to 65%, so the single core CPU performance seems to be the limiting factor. I'll just enable LSFG now. Enabled. FPS with frame generation on is close to 90, sometimes 100. Oh no, not this guy, too powerful. Rover's head is flickering when I move the camera in complete circles. So minor graphical artifacts are present in this game. Can observe the added amount of smoothness. Change my characters and be done on the fly like this. Using Erd. This FPS is close to 50. They are done. Observe the absorb the echo. I just use the glider. Sometimes the character model flickers like this, noticeable when using the glider. I'll be testing the next game. Elden Ring Shadow of Erdtree expansion. This game's FPS is still capped at 60. LSFG settings. Not using its performance mode, extra frame generation mode, sync mode set to default, max frame latency set to 2. Internal settings. FreeSync enable. VSync set to off unless application specifies. Anti-lag setting enable. RSI enable. Resolution upscale from 720p to Full HD. In-game settings. Display mode set to borderless windowed. 720p resolution. Using these settings, most of the settings are set to medium. Motion blur disabled. Anti-aliasing set to high. Start the game. This is my character. I'm in the graveside plain area. Big open area here. FPS is variable, 46 to 50. It's raining. I'll just enable LSFG now. Yeah, it got enabled. Base FPS is around 50, but check out the added amount of smoothness. FPS with frame generation enabled close to 100. Oh my god, camera is moving so quickly. Not observing any graphical artifacts here around the character model. game's HUD is also not flickering. This problem is not present in LSFG. Okay, I'll head to Castle Anses. Go through the Great Bridge. This place is fortified. Need to be careful. Soldiers will be attacking me. Okay, I'm observing some garbled texture around the bottom edge of the display. It's a bit difficult to observe the issue. See? Oh my god, that was close. Garbled textures here. Base FPS dropped down to 30. Still the game is running smoothly, all thanks to frame generation. Shadow of Erdtree's performance is disappointing on PC platform. It's highly recommended to use LSFG in this game. We do have an FSR3 frame generation mod. It's developed by Pure Dark, but you cannot use it when the game is running in online mode. I'll be testing the next game. Witcher 3 Wild Hunt, X2 frame generation mode, performance mode disabled, sync mode set to default, max frame latency value set to 2, frame rate limit set to 60, adrenaline settings, FreeSync enabled, pacing set to off unless application specifies, anti-lag setting enabled, that's it. Display mode set to borderless windowed, 720p resolution. I'm using the low preset, FSR2 set to quality, motion blur disabled, and that's it. There's Carol. I'm standing at the entrance of Novigrad. This is the game running without LSFG. FPS is close to 60. I'll just enable LSFG now. GPU load is close to 76%, almost 80%. LSFG is working, but the base FPS dropped down to around 50 in jitter. I'll just enable LSFG's performance mode. Base FPS should be close to 60. Yeah, much better now. Can observe the added amount of smoothness. Input response, it's manageable. I tested this game with an older version of LSFG. Observed a lot of input delay back then. Okay, I'll just explore the area on horseback. Base FPS is around 55. It's a very populated area, full of non-playable characters. Still we are getting good performance. FPS with frame generation enabled. Stays above 100. Now I'll be testing the next game. Dragon's Dogma Part 2. I'll just set the UMA buffer size to 6 GB. I'll be testing the game in 1 watt area. Rog Ally is not able to maintain even 30 FPS in this game. Game is just too demanding on the CPU. Adrenaline settings, FreeSync enabled. FreeSync set to off unless application specifies, anti-lag setting enabled. In-game settings, display mode set to borderless windows, 720p resolution, VSync disabled. Most of the settings are set to low, effects disabled. Shadow cast setting enabled, helps in improving the performance. There's my character. And this is my home. Use it to save my progress. And oh my god, look at the base performance. 25 to 30 FPS. This is the town center. Yeah, here we won't be getting 30 FPS. Very choppy gameplay. 23 to 25 FPS. Can observe the frame pacing issues. Enable LSFG. Don't expect much. Back to the game. Okay. Our character model is flickering. This is expected as the base FPS is even lower than 30. Can observe the garbled textures around the bottom edge of the display. But I'll be honest, I can also observe the added amount of smoothness. No way this is 23 FPS. FPS with frame generation enabled 44. Still better than the real 23 FPS. I'm leaving the place. Micro stutters. Look at that creature in the background. Sprint towards it. Ugly performance. Again FPS dropped down to around 20. It's not recommended to play this game on Rog Ally. LSFG can't do much when the base performance is so bad. Time to conclude the video. Observed good performance gains in all of the games, but there were some minor graphical artifacts like flickering of a character's head, a strip of garbled textures around the bottom edge of the display. We observed this issue in Elden Ring, but I'll be honest with you, these artifacts were not very distracting. Some people may not even be able to spot them if they are playing the games on a small display like allies. Now you can run the games at an FPS higher than the display's maximum refresh rate with LSFG enabled. However, on Rog Ally, I observed the best results with an in-game FPS cap of 60 and then using X2 frame generation mode to double the FPS. Frame pacing and screen tearing issues were not present. Input delay was also manageable. Latency improvements thus seem to be included with this build. So that's it with the video guys. I hope you find it useful. Thanks for watching and have a nice day.